Okay, we're gonna paint our winter tier tray kit. So first things first, you either need to get a piece of paper for your workspace, or you can just open up the box that it came in and use that, because you need to protect something to protect your space, but then also something to dab your paint onto. Okay, how I start my tier tray kits is I like to paint them by color versus by piece. So I have my little paint pods, and so I have my cream one with all the cream pieces in one corner, blue, green, so on and so forth. So if you want to press pause and do that, then we can get started. I'm going to start with the brown color so that I can show you the baby wipe method if you have not done that previously. So the most important thing to make sure is that your baby wipe is moist. If it is completely dried out, you'll want to get either a spray bottle and spray it a little bit, or get some water in your hands and then just kind of like crunch the baby wipe. You don't want it wet, but it definitely needs to be damp. Okay, so I'm going to wrap the baby wipe around these two fingers, and then I'm gonna set this down a little bit so you can see the sun is starting to go down, so I'm hoping to beat the light a little bit. I accidentally filled too many pods, so now I wasted the pressure seals. Dang it. Okay, so here are my brown pieces. I'm just going to lightly dip into the paint, and then on your box or your work surface, I just rub some of that off. And then I'm going to just go ahead and wipe it on in one direction. You don't want to go crazy and just wipe it all willy-nilly, because you're gonna, once it dries, you'll see that you wiped it in a lot of different directions. So you want to keep it looking uniform. But this is just a really nice way to like give it a stained look without having to use stain. Stain is so smelly, and it would be impossible for me to send stain. I would love to, but can you imagine the mess if it spilled? Oh, I cannot. So anyways, let's say you want less coverage, then get a clean part of your baby wipe and just go over and wipe it, and then more paint is going to come up. If you want more, like a darker color, then all you need to do is wait for it to completely dry, which doesn't take long with this method, and do another coat. And it's just going to deposit more color on. It's so much faster than the wedges too, which is really nice. Okay, so I did my banner, and then once you start to like rub holes in it, then just move to another corner. Okay, let's do our frame. A little bit more paint. Okay, and then our sleigh. And then our brown color is done. And then I will move on to the wedge method, and then I'll go ahead and press pause while we finish it out, so this video isn't an hour long. Same with the sleigh. You want to go in one direction if possible. So I just kind of rub it like this once I get to the handle. Okay. Now all my pieces are stained in a way. Now let's go to, you know what, let's do our cream, because then we can talk about the shiplap lines. Okay, my cream pieces are the bigger pieces. The back of this piece, the tag, the shiplap, and then my little beanie pieces. Oh, you know what? I'm going to do, because this one has 2 colors on it. It's got the blue as well as the puff. So I'll put this on since I'm doing the white first. So I sent you with 2 sizes of wedges. The big wedge is for the cream color, just because there's more space to cover. So if you haven't used wedges before, you're going to dip your wedge in, dab up and down on your work surface just so that you have an even layer versus a glob, and then just lightly dab up and down. And I don't dab directly on top of the shiplap lines at first, otherwise a ton of paint is gonna fall into the cracks. So I go like above and then work my way down over the shiplap lines, if that makes sense. So go into the middle of the shiplap line and then work your way up. The etch pieces, it's okay if you get paint in them because you just need to be able to at least see a little bit of it to guide you when you're gluing down. But the shiplap, you definitely don't want to flood with paint. So the key is very light taps up and down, and then just plan on doing a couple coats. After the first coat is completely dry, I usually get my sandpaper and very, very lightly do a sanding just because it makes it super smooth for your second coat and it just looks so much nicer. Okay, I didn't get any paint in, but if you do happen to get paint into your lines, just take your toothpick and then just run it straight across, and that is gonna pull out any paint. Do it while the paint is still wet, and you will see immediate results on that. Okay, so this is just basically our technique for every other piece of this for all the colors. So I'm going to go ahead and press pause and finish out painting, and then we'll come back when it's time to glue everything and make our tassel. Oh, sorry. I totally forgot to tell you. Charlie, no. That was an adorable awoo. Anyways, I forgot to mention on these little, Charlie, no. Somebody's walking their dog. Fingers. On these little pieces, if you haven't used these tweezers before, that's what they are for. I just squeeze and just kind of hold down, and that helps so that the piece doesn't come back up with the wet paint. So do that with like the letters and like the small snowflakes, and it will make your life way easier. The sun went down while I was painting, so I had to turn the overhead lights on. So hopefully it still stays true to color. One thing I forgot to mention, I also just swiped my wipe on the trunk. Sorry, somebody came to the door and so they were being naughty. Okay, so I used my baby wipe to paint the trunk of the trees. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this wedge that I used for cream, and it's been sitting out here. So it's pretty dry, which is what I want. It's not dried out, but the paint is going to be super light on there. And then just for the trees, I want them to kind of look snow-capped. So I'm going to very, very lightly tap up and down along the top and along the edges of the trees. And if your wedge has dried out too much, then you can always dip into your cream, and then I would just bounce up and down a lot to make sure that you're not depositing too much paint on, because you just want it to be like a very light dusting. Because you can always go back and add more, but the only way to really take it away is to paint it green again, which won't take too long, but just more annoying than anything. And then I'm just going to, so that. been doing these tutorials all day, and if you've been around for a while, you know I had braces all last year. Well, for 10 months last year to fix I was getting an overbite, and I've always had straight teeth, and if I didn't fix it, my teeth were going to start to go crooked, and then I'd have to wear braces for like 2 years. So I got braces, and I got them off. I'm supposed to be wearing my retainer, and I haven't worn them all day, so I've been thinking about it. I'm a little nervous, but it's fine. Okay, now it's time to put this together. You should definitely go and wash your hands. Yeah, I'm gonna go do that. Okay, I decided to take my own advice. Usually I'm like, it doesn't matter. But then I get paint because of my dirty hands, and I get mad at myself. So here we go. Okay, I had to make sure that it was still going. Let's put together our sled first because it's one piece. So all it is our snowflake. So open your super glue away from your pieces so that it doesn't plop out onto your pieces. And then once it's activated, like once you put the lid on, remember that a little bit goes a long way. So I'm just going to dot. I'm not even squeezing. I'm just dotting a little bit of super glue onto my snowflake, and then I'm going to set it onto my sleigh, and then just wait for a second for it to dry. Then to tie the string around it, it came with the little, I think it was 12-inch string. There's really no rhyme or reason. I just put one through one hole, put the end through one hole, and then when I do tie, I guess I should get onto the screen. When I tie the knot, I try to get it so that it's onto the back, just because that's where I don't want to see the knot. But if you wanted to, then you can have it on the front. It doesn't matter. That's just pure personal preference. And then I plan on trimming this little piece. Then I'm going to string through the other hole. But while I do that, I'm going to be figuring out how long I want this sled string to be. I think, oops, like probably this long is fine for me, which means that I have this much string left. So I'm going to just take a knot, or tie a knot, and then plan on trimming it. Is it even on camera? Just get my scissors. And if you're afraid of your knots coming undone, you can always put like a little dab of super glue onto the knot, and then it will stay forever. I might need to do that on this one. This one, for some reason, looks like the twine's coming undone. Okay, so then we have our sled. So we'll set that aside. Let's do our banner next. So we have 5 pieces. 3 of them are the snowflake, and then 2 of them are the beanie. So let me move this so that I'm better on camera. Don't worry, it was just lids. It's fine. Okay, so let's do our snowflakes first. So I'm gonna line my banner up together just so that my snowflakes are somewhat in a similar position, like as in right in the middle. So I'm going to do a dot and then kind of drag it out to the arms of the snowflake. I'm not hardly squeezing at all. And then same with this one. I'm going to squeeze a dot and then just kind of drag it down the arms. You don't need super glue on every square inch. And then I'm just going to kind of eyeball it and try to get it approximately the same place in the middle of the banner. Your banner, once you hang it, it's not going to be perfectly straight anyways, so it doesn't need to be perfect, but if they're totally off, then you're going to be able to tell. And these little pieces you don't have to hold down for a really long time because they dry very quickly and very fast. Or I meant very tight. I don't know the word I'm looking for. Okay, same with the back of the beanie. I'm gonna center that and then have this there so that I can kind of have it similar. Do you see how when I'm doing the super glue, I'm trying to stay away from the edges? If it's like a word, like for instance, hello, I do try to get the super glue onto the very end of these little pieces just so that they stick down. But like these bigger pieces, it's just one solid piece. I stay away from the edges because then it's not gonna squirt out the side. If that makes sense. Okay, the next pieces for my beanie are the little cuff and then the actual beanie part. So I'm just going to kind of line that up so that it looks good and centered. You'll see a small outline of the background. If you put too much super glue on, like I just did, I had a little bit of a glob there. I just press it down onto my box or your paper or whatever. That way it's not going to squirt out the side. Okay, one cuff down. The other cuff down. Perfect. Okay, and then I'm not going to string my banner right now, but all I do is obviously I start with the snowflake since there's 3. So I did snowflake, beanie, snowflake, beanie, snowflake. And then I go front because I don't want to see, for me, I like my string in the back. But if you like having the look of the string, because that would actually look super cute with this, then you can go have the string show. But I generally don't because sometimes my pieces overlap where the string goes and I don't like that. So I would just string it like that and then tie it onto your tier tray. Okay, let's do actually I'm gonna do the tag last because that's where the tassel is. Okay, we'll do this, the frame. So I am going to do a very light, very, very light squeezing because I don't want, when it looks like I'm going double over it, it's because I didn't get any glue on that piece. So no, I'm not doubling up. The corners are the main pieces on this. So before I set it down, I'm going to use my fingers to make sure that the edges match. And then when I'm happy with that, then I'm going to try to press down on the whole surface. Just to make sure that if it's warped at all, it's still gonna stick down. Okay, now for these little tiny words. Instead of holding it and trying to glue it like this, because I know I will glue my fingers together, I am going to, I'll do that. I'm going to squirt some super glue onto my paper. And then I'm just going to dab the word in there, dab off the excess glue onto the side, and then use the etching as a guide. I might need to get me another super glue. I literally did all the projects today with one super glue. So Let me know if you ever run out, but you should have plenty. I try to make sure that I send you with more than enough, just in case there's an accident, like if you accidentally dropped it or spilled it, or if you super glued the cap on or something like that. Okay. And then my trees. Okay, just 1 second. Okay, I need to go grab another super glue. Whoops, I keep dropping the lids to my paint pots. They're on the very edge of my table. And I just knock them down. Okay, trees. Just going to do one line straight down the middle and call that good. And then I just line the trunks up with the bottom of the frame. That seems to be good. Okay, so then we have that piece. Oh, this is so cute. Okay, oh, let's do Hello Winter. A little shiplap piece. Okay. So since this is bigger, I'm going to go ahead and just hold it, and I'm just going to try to get, excuse me, like the fatter pieces, plus wipe a little bit of the excess on that little O-tail, and then use the edge to line it up, and then do our little dip method. These ones are big enough that you may be able to just hold on to it, but at least I know I won't super glue my finger together with this method. It just wastes a little bit more glue. Probably the most boring thing. I hope that most of you are just fast forwarding through this. But just in case anybody has a question where something goes. Okay. Now for the snowflakes, I'm going to, sorry, I have a tickle in my throat. I am going to lay them out before I glue them, so I kind of know, make sure that they fit and I don't like run out of room anywhere. And that looks great. And then I'm going to try to just like randomly place them. I don't want them all going the same direction. That will, I feel like it will just look too uniform. So haphazardly, but also kind of planned. Make sure that you lay them out so that the arms aren't going exactly the same way. Hi, puppies. Okay. And then we have our little, oh no, I did not let him dry long enough. Okay. Then we have our little round. Now, for our tag, I feel like you can't have a tickle in your throat anymore nowadays. You have to choke down your cough. Okay. So one line, and then I'm going to line them up with the bottom of the tag, the tree trunks at the bottom of the tag, but they go in between these little circle snowflakes, I guess you would say. And then just try to make it somewhat even. So like that. And then our little ring. now I'm going in my head, trying to remember if I remember how I did the tassel. I think every single time I do it, I'm gonna be honest, I think I do it different every single time. So I'm trying to remember. This last time I did it, I was like, oh, I like that better if I can remember how I did it. Okay, so to do your tassel, I'm gonna lift you up a little bit. There are 3 different sizes of string. There's a little one, a medium, and a really, really long one. We're gonna take our really long one first. So how I do the tassel is I'm going to hold my hand like this, and I'm gonna hold the end of the string at the bottom of my palm, and then I am just going to, oops, except I moved it, and then just twist it around my hand, or wrap it around my hand like this until it's done. So then I'm going to slide it off. So that's a longer piece that I'm just gonna cut so that it's just this oval shape, but then I'm going to pinch closer towards the top because that's gonna be your tassel. Then take the smallest string. I should have laid this out before. Take the smallest string. I'm gonna leave like this much hanging out so that I have enough to tie a knot. And then I'm just going to wrap it really tight around that tassel a few times. And then there should be plenty of string. And then I'm gonna tie a really tight knot to keep it in place. Oops. Okay, so before I do anything else, get a pencil or a pen and go through all the top loop, and then I'm going to kind of pull it to make it even. So loop my hands down here and then kind of just work it so that it is an even hole that you can see through. Does that make sense? And then I can also push this knot up because you don't need this big, huge gaping hole. So I'm gonna push that up so that I have a longer tassel and then just make it even. And now I have an eye that I can see through. So then what I'm going to do is I wanna make sure that my tassel doesn't come undone. This is purely optional, but the knot that I made, I'm just going to drop a little tiny drop of super glue into it so that it stays. And then wait for your super glue to dry and then trim these pieces off. If you don't wait for it to dry, then you'll super glue your scissors. And where did that piece go? Oh, it's right there. It blended in with my tassel. Okay, then you have this. So what I'm going to do is now cut so that all the strings are open on the bottom and then trim them. So I just kind of lay them out. They don't need to be perfectly even because it's a rustic little tassel, but if there's any pieces that are like super crazy long, because mine is going like this right now. There we go. And then that will look really great. Okay, now the middle piece, the middle length, I should say, of string, the only one that you have left. I'm trying to think if I should practice this before I show you because I don't necessarily remember all the way. I'm going to practice. Okay, this is the way I did it this time. I have another tutorial that's simply for the tassel, and I know it's a different way. I just don't remember that way of doing it. So I folded my string in half, and then the closed end, because these are the two open ends, the closed end I'm going to thread from back to front, open it up, and pull this closed like this. Then the next thing you need to do is go get a really tiny piece of Scotch tape. So just a second, let me go do that. Okay, I couldn't find Scotch tape, but I found washi tape. This, you're going to want to wrap just a small piece around the very, very end of your string. That's going to make it so much easier to thread your beads. So I just wrapped both of them. Then just start threading. I hope the washi tape works. I might need to go find Scotch. It's working for now though. Just making sure you can see. Some of these beads have more wood in them, so they're a little bit harder to thread. 6, 7. Okay. Then I'm going to take the tape off. So now I have these two pieces, and I'm going to find that eye again. You might have to smush it a little bit. And I'm going to take only one of the pieces and thread it through. That's where these tweezers come in handy. Okay. And then I'm going to get it as close to the beads as I can because I don't want this big, huge gap. And I'm going to tie a knot. So as I'm tying the knot, I'm kind of squishing it to the beads. Multitasking. And also lifting it up at the same time. So it doesn't look super silly. Yeah, this way is confusing you. Go watch my other tutorial. I will need to watch it and renew my memory because I do not remember the other way of me doing my tassel. It was probably easier. Probably. And then I'm just going to trim those two pieces. And there you have your tasseled tag this way. And I think we did all the pieces. Let me know if you have any other questions.